Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to The Spread. This is your guest host, Big Easy, in studio with baseball guru Jay Dash, continuing that spring training baseball talk. I think I already seen a video about the American League rotation. Did you already speak about that, huh?
Talked about the top three American League rotations, yes.
Well, we're going to break this one down and go with the top 3 National League pitching rotations on with some honorable mentions. Probably the Pirates will be the honorable mention for this doof right here.
Well, we got 5 of them, and they are included, but we're going to start off with the Philadelphia Phillies. They have Aaron Nola and Vincent Velasquez at the top of the rotation. Now, I don't think Aaron Nola is a pure ace, but he's a young guy, and he has the potential to be a number 1, maybe a high-end number 2. I think Vince Velasquez has the most upside in this rotation. The one question about him is his durability. A lot of people are wondering if he'll eventually be moved to the bullpen. But I got to think Philadelphia gives him every single chance they can to stick in this rotation because I think he really could be an ace. They also have Jeremy Hellickson as their number 3. He had really a resurrection last season. Finally, he bounced back from a handful of years where he underperformed. Hopefully he can keep those numbers up this season as well, but I have some questions about that as well. I'm not so sure he will, but if he can repeat what he did last season, they have a great 1-2-3 here. They brought over Clay Buchholz to be their number 4 starter, so that isn't terrible. Sometimes he can have a good season as well, but recently he hasn't been that great. But he does have that potential still. And Jared Eichhoff, a pretty good 5th starter, still a young guy. He has the potential to work his way up to a number 4, I believe. But he'll never be much more than that, I wouldn't think. Maybe a number 3 at best. We got the St. Louis Cardinals. They got Carlos Martinez at the top end of the rotation. I don't necessarily think he's a pure ace either, but he might be on his way to become an ace. He's somewhat of a smaller guy, so I have a little bit of questions about his long-term durability. But right now, he's definitely the best pitcher on their staff and one of the better pitchers in the National League. They got Adam Wainwright. He had somewhat of a down season last year after coming back from that injury where he missed most of the 2015 season. I don't think he's ever going to get back to that ace status he was at either. But I think he can improve his numbers a little bit this season and become a solid number 2. They got Mike Leake at the number 3 spot this season. Or you could say Lance Lynn as well. But Mike Leake, he's always been a solid pitcher, not someone that I've ever really been that high on. But he's getting paid a ton of money by St. Louis. But he always has been a reliable pitcher. Lance Lynn, like I said, he was injured last season as well. They're hoping he can come back and last throughout this season. And Michael Wacha probably as the 5th starter right now. They had Alex Reyes, a guy who was a top prospect. He's a top 10 prospect in baseball. He actually had Tommy John surgery, and he looked good in his debut last season as well. They were expecting big things from this guy. He has the big heater, but he's done for the season. So it looks like Michael Wacha will be the 5th starter, but they also got Luke Weaver as well. And I heard some things that he's going to be the 5th starter. So it's not guaranteed it's going to be Wacha, but they also talked about putting Trevor Rosenthal in as a starter as well. Although I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to end up in the 7th or 8th inning. What do you think about the Cardinals pitching staff this season?
It's not going to be as strong as it has in the years past, obviously. Wainwright, I don't see him doing much. I think he's gone. He's done with it.
He's beat nuts?
Yeah, he's beat in my book. I don't see him doing much. Well, I don't expect him to do much, so whatever.
Like I said, it's been 3 years now since he's really been an ace-type pitcher. All right, let's move on to the Pirates. They got Garrett Cole at the top end. Obviously, he needs a bounce-back season last year, although his final ERA wasn't completely horrible. It was 3.80-something, I believe it was. There were good pitchers in the league that had worse ERAs. It was more the fact that he really wasn't healthy all season, and when he did go down, his final 5 starts did not look good at all. And then you got Jameson Taillon as the number 2. He had a great debut last season. Hopefully he can build on that. And if he can do what he was doing in terms of control, I mean, this guy can turn into an ace as well. His walk rate was off the charts last season, especially for a rookie. And then Ivan Nova as your number 3 starter isn't bad at all, especially what he did with Pittsburgh when he came over in that trade last season. I mean, his walk rate was even better than Tyone's. I think he had something like 3 walks when he came over from the New York Yankees. Now, I don't expect him to be that good. I think he's going to fall back to earth a little bit, but I still think he can be a solid number 3. And then you got Chad Kuhl, who had a pretty good debut season last year as well as your number 4 starter. So there's nothing wrong here, 1 through 4. All you want to see is Cole bounce back from what he did last season.
Which is, I strongly believe he'll...
Yeah, you'd have to believe it. Well, he's healthy right now, and he wasn't even healthy going into the season last year, and he ended the season on a DL
That's
as well.
the thing.
So.
I mean, if he gets injured again this year, then you might as well... Well, what's his contract status? Because seriously, if he gets...
I think this is his first year of arbitration. He has 2 more years of arbitration after this year.
I mean, I hope for his sake that he stays healthy.
Please
if
believe
he wants
it.
to make money.
The question here, though, is the number 5 spot. Right now, it looks like Drew Hutchison has the lead for that role.
Right.
But Tyler Glass now looked lights out the other day, and they said he has to pitch lights out here in spring to earn that 5th spot in the rotation. And he's well on his way to doing so. And he obviously has the most upside here. And really, he has ace potential as well. Now, I don't know if he'll ever realize it or not. I think he will. I mean, you remember years ago I said this guy was better than Garrett Cole, and I still believe he is. And he actually added a 2-seam fastball. He fixed his changeup, and he really worked on his control this offseason as well. So things are looking up for Glass now. And if he can realize his potential, this staff looks very beast to me. But there's also Stephen Brault and Trevor Williams as well that's trying to fight for this 5th spot in the rotation.
I don't remember Hutchison. I remember seeing Brault, but I don't remember seeing anything about Hutchison.
Hutchison is the guy they traded for in the Liriano deal. The deal that everyone hated. We gave up Liriano and 2 prospects. We got Drew Hutchison in return, and he's still a young guy. He's 26 years old, and he was actually opening day starter for Toronto a few years ago.
Did he pitch for us at all yet?
Yeah, he pitched for us a little bit. He didn't pitch lights out or anything, but apparently they fixed his release point here in the offseason, and he added a little bit of velocity because of it.
Heat. So, dude's coming with the heat.
I mean,
what's he known for? Do you know anything about him?
Well, yeah, I actually picked this guy up in fantasy years ago.
Hell no.
When he was in the minor leagues, right before he got called up, I picked him up because, he has he had potential at one point. But, that's a little bit past now. It's been a few years.
3 stars? We talking 3 stars then? Or
yeah,
what?
3 stars. I wouldn't expect him to be anything more than a number 3 at this point if he really did have a turnaround. But he did have that potential in a day, so he could be like a Edinson Volquez type. They also have Nick Kingham in minor leagues, and he's going to see some major league experience this season, I would have to believe, at some point. So I'm excited to see him as well because that guy is a potential number 3 as well.
That's the only thing I'm excited for this season is just to see how these pitchers pan out. Everyone else, I know what they can do and what they're capable of on that baseball team. It's these pitchers that I want to see, and it would be the key to their success or their downfall. So
believe it, along with the bullpen.
Yeah, all their pitching is, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Giants here. They got Madison Bumgarner as their ace, obviously. Beast. He's a beast. Johnny Cueto as the number 2.
Beast.
Yeah, that's pretty beast. Samardzija's their number 3
He's
now.
a bum.
I wouldn't say he's a bum. He can definitely pitch better than he has recently, and I think he can get back to that as well. But he's at one point, he was an ace for... I guess he was the Cubs ace. He wasn't necessarily ever an ace, but he was a number 1. He had some good numbers in the past, and I think he'll get back to those. And then you have Matt Moore as the number 4 pitcher in the rotation. He had a good bounce-back season last year. He had a lot of injuries in his past. He played for Tampa Bay, never really got it going for them, although he always did have the upside, and he showed it last season, and hopefully he can expand on that. And then Matt Cain is the number 5. I'm not too high on this guy. We've seen what he's this guy used to be a beast pitcher, but it's been a few years since he has put up those types of numbers. So he's just a number 5 at this point. That's pretty much what he is.
Yeah, I mean, out of all these honorable mention squads, the Giants would be number 4 if you ask me. I don't know.
Well,
Solid.
I did have them in order, so I went Phillies, Cardinals, Pirates, Giants.
They're in order.
I'm saying from worst to best. Yeah, that's still just the way I put them.
Okay.
And then one more here, the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are a little bit better than the Giants. They got Kershaw at the top. He's probably the best pitcher in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They do have Rich Hill at the number 2 spot. Now, he had a great season last year, got traded to the Dodgers, and it took him a while to get going. But when he did finally pitch for him, he pitched all right. But if he can pitch like he did last year, that's a perfect 1 and 2, obviously. But I'm not so sure he's going to do that either. I think he's going to take a step back as well. And then Kenta Maeda as the number 3 is a solid number 3, obviously. He showed last year was actually his rookie season. He came over from, Korea or something like that.
Right.
And he had a great season last year. So this guy, I mean, he's actually probably a number 2. He pitched like a number 2 last season. Hopefully he can repeat those numbers. And I think the one question they have about him is he going to be able to pitch throughout a 162-game season, because last year he kind of wore down late in the season. Scott Kazmir is your number 4. There's no problem with that. That guy can pitch like a number 3, no problem. And then you have Julio Urias as your number 5. And this guy I think he's only 19 years old right now. He might have turned 20 already, but this guy is young. He was a top 10 prospect at one point, and he is supposed to turn into an ace at some point, but he is supposed to be a beast. So who knows? Maybe he takes that next step this season. Maybe it's another year or two, but I'd throw him in the number 5 spot. Plus, you got Hyun-Jin Ryu, who you could always pitch if you want to give Urias a break, send him down to the minors for a little bit. Or, I mean, if Rich Hill doesn't work out, if Scott Kazmir has an injury, if Kenta Maeda can't last the full 162 games. I mean, Hyun-Jin Ryu's had a lot of injury history as well, so I don't expect him to pitch 32 games. But he can pitch 10, 15 starts for you throughout the season, maybe. What do you think, Giants or Dodgers?
It's tough. I'm going to go with the Giants still.
Still like the Giants?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, these last 3, the top 3 in the National League, you could really put them in any order. I put them in this order. The number 3 team, I would say, is the Chicago Cubs, although you could very easily put them at number 1. They have Jake Arrieta as their ace. Now, he had a completely unheard of season 2 years ago, we remember. And I even said that you should see him take some kind of a step back last season. And he did take a little bit of a step back. He had a 3.10 ERA and a 1.08 whip, which is still beast. But his walks were up a little bit, 76 walks, although he did strike out 190 in 197.1 innings. And look at this, 138 hits allowed. So he was still very hard to hit. Very good pitcher, obviously. John Lester's your number 2. He had an even better season than Arrieta last year. A 2.44 ERA, a 1.02 whip, 197 Ks compared to just 52 walks and 202.2 innings. And just allowed 154 hits. So your 1 and 2 looks like maybe the best in the National League. Although I do like the Mets and Nationals as well, who we'll be talking about here in a second. Kyle Hendricks, I don't think this guy's going to have the same type of season as last year. That season was ridiculous. This guy was expected to be a number 4, number 5 type pitcher, and last year he pitched better than any pitcher on his staff.
He won the Cy Young.
Yeah, well, 2.13 ERA and an 0.98 whip, 170 Ks compared to 44 walks and 190 innings pitched. Allowed just 142 hits. This guy was a beast last year. I really can't see that happening again. He has to take some type of a step back this year, but still a solid number 3. Obviously, even a solid number 2, number 1 at this point, especially if he can repeat those numbers. And then your number 4 is John Lackey, who had a great season last year as well. A 3.35 ERA, a 1.06 whip, 180 Ks compared to 53 walks and 188.1 innings pitched. Allowed just 146 hits. So you look at these top 4 pitchers. They pitched 778.1 innings last season and allowed just 580 hits. That's nearly 200 less hits than innings pitched. So you see why this team won the World Series last year. And I expect John Lackey to actually take a small step back as well. This guy, he's an older guy. He's almost 40 years old, if my memory serves me correct. So I expect him to take a step back, Kyle Hendricks to take a step back. I could see Arrieta pitching a little bit better than he did last season, though, actually. But I could see John Lester taking a little bit of a step back as well. But still, this staff is beast 1 through 4. But Jason Hamill isn't on the team anymore. They got rid of him. They have Brett Anderson and Mike Montgomery, who they just said could share the number 5 role this season. And you could see why, because Brett Anderson, a guy that pitched very well for the Oakland Athletics a handful of years ago, really hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout his entire career. And he did pitch a little bit for the Dodgers last season. He pitched just 11 innings, though, 11.1 innings, had 11.91 ERA, a 2.56 whip, and allowed 25 hits in 11.1 innings. So he didn't look good at all last year, has a big injury history, although this guy does have some upside. So you can see why they're bringing him in as the number 5, but they do need a backup, and that is Mike Montgomery. He was traded to the Cubs from Seattle last season. He made 7 starts and had a total of 49 appearances last year. Had a 2.52 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP, 92 Ks compared to 38 walks and 100 innings pitched. So I think that guy can actually turn into number 4, number 5 type pitcher in the long run. So I think they'll be fine, even though Jason Hamill's gone.
That dude didn't win the Cy Young. I was tripping.
Oh, yeah?
I think it was Scherzer.
Scherzer won the Cy Young, and that is my number 2 team, and that is the Nationals aces, Max Scherzer.
That's right.
Had a 2.96 ERA, an 0.97 WHIP. Look at this, 284 Ks compared to 56 walks and 228.1 innings pitched. That is beast mode right there. So that you can see why he won the Cy Young. 284 Ks, that is monstrous. And Steven Strasburg is your number 2. This guy can obviously pitch like an ace as well, although you do want to see him get to 200 innings at some point in his career here moving forward. But last year, a 3.60 ERA, a 1.10 WHIP, 183 Ks in 147.2 innings pitched, just 44 walks, so a very good season out of him. Gio Gonzalez didn't have that great of a year last year. The only lefty on this staff, he had a 4.57 ERA and a 1.34 WHIP in 177.1 innings pitched. You want to see better numbers out of him, obviously. You want to see that ERA go up a full point, really. But he's shown it in the past, so he can get back to those numbers. And Tanner Roark had a great season last year, a 2.83 ERA in 210 innings pitched, 172 Ks compared to 73 walks, just a 1.17 WHIP. So that's more your number 3 at this point. Gio Gonzalez might be the number 4, but Roark, I think he's going to take a step back as well. He's not necessarily that dominating as he showed last season. And the number 5 guy, Tyson Ross's little brother, Joe Ross. This is still a young guy, has more upside ahead of him, but still had a great season last year. Although he did just pitch 105 innings, so you're going to want to see him get around maybe 140 this season, 160 or something like that. He had a 3.43 ERA last season, a 1.30 WHIP. 93 Ks compared to 29 walks in those 105 innings pitched. So this 1 through 5 looks great to me. You just want to see Gio Gonzalez get back on track, and you want to see a little bit more innings out of Strasburg and Ross. So who's better, the Nats or the Cubs to you?
I'm going to go with the World Series champions, whatever.
Chicago?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
One more team here, and that is the New York Mets. The biggest question about this team is health. Are they going to be able to stay healthy? You got your number 1, who you'd expect to, is Noah Syndergaard. He pitched 183.2 innings last season, so you could see him get to 200 this year, and he is an ace. A 2.60 ERA, a 1.15 WHIP, 218 Ks and 43 walks in those 183.2 innings. And this guy still has his best seasons ahead of him, so he can improve on these numbers at some point. Maybe it's not this season. Those are some pretty beast numbers, but you're going to see some big seasons out of this guy in the future. The number 2 guy can be a number 1 as well and can be considered an ace if you really want. Jacob deGrom, a 3.04 ERA and a 1.20 WHIP last season. Although he did pitch just 148 innings, you want to see him get closer to 200 as well. but he had 143 Ks compared to just 36 walks in 148 innings pitched. So this guy's control is off the charts as well. The number 3 is Matt Harvey. Now, the question with him is he going to be able to get his career back on track? This guy was a pure ace at one point, went down with Tommy John surgery, came back.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman. Although Jacob deGrom wore some Batman shoes as well, so who knows? AJ Burnett
Thor?
was Batman.
No, that's Noah.
Thor is Noah, yes.
Yeah, Thor, Batman.
They're all,
We'll just call it DeGrom Flash.
We'll call the New York Mets the Justice League.
Yeah.
But anyways, Matt Harvey, he really got to get back on track from what he did last season. A 4.86 ERA, a 1.47 WHIP, pitched just 92.2 innings, although he had just 25 walks. So it really wasn't about control. It was the hits. He allowed way too many hits. He was way too hittable. His strikeouts were down just 76 Ks. Like I said, this guy was a pure ace at one point. Hopefully he can get back to at least number 3 type numbers. And then you got Steven Matz, a guy who pitched just 132.1 innings last season, although he's a number 2 type pitcher, I would have to say. A 3.40 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP last season, 129 Ks compared to just 31 walks in those 132.1 innings. So this 1 through 4 is beast if they can stay healthy, and if Matt Harvey can get back to his old self. I mean, this staff is really unstoppable. And then you got Zach Wheeler, who can also be a number 2 type pitcher in my opinion, although this guy has had injuries galore throughout his career. He really hasn't pitched at all since 2014. Although he had a 3.54 ERA and a 1.33 WHIP and 185.1 innings pitched that year. So that guy can be a number 2. There's so many questions, though. Matt Harvey, Steven Matz has health issues. Zach Wheeler has a ton of health issues. Although they do have this Robert Gazelman, another young guy. These are all young guys, by the way. Gazelman, though, last season in his debut, 44.2 innings pitched, a 2.42 ERA and a 1.28 WHIP, 42 Ks compared to just 15 walks. So he pitched great. I don't think he's that good of a pitcher, though. So I expect those numbers to come down a little bit. But he is a guy that I believe can stick in a rotation. So even if Wheeler can't last this season, I think Gazelman can step right in, and they really don't take a step back in this rotation at all. Mets, are they better than the Cubs or the Nats?
No.
Neither one?
It goes Nationals, and if the Mets pick, if the
You said the Cubs a minute ago.
Did I?
Were better than the Nats. Yeah, you said you'd go with the World Series champs.
Okay, well, it's one. I forgot. Who cares? I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing every year in baseball with these teams and these pitchers.
These 3 teams?
Yeah.
Well, not every year.
Well, for the last 5 years.
Not the Cubs for the last 5. The other 2 have been good. I guess, I don't know. The Mets are still young, though. I mean, all these guys are still young. That's what I like about them.
Okay, so it's only been the best 3 pitching staffs for the last year and this year.
Maybe, yeah. But the Nats have been good for 3-4 years now.
I'm not here to rank them. That's your job. I like all 3 of them. I'm down with it.
What about the honorable mentions? You hate the Pirates?
Yeah, the Pirates are garbage. If they had pitchers, they'd win 100 baseball games. It's sad. We'll find out.
That's it, though, man. I say Mets, Nats, Cubs is 1, 2, 3. You can put them in any order, though.
Ball. Fans, go to that YouTube page. Subscribe to that channel. Twitter @bet_spread. Facebook.com/betthespread. That's about it. We're going to keep that spring baseball talk coming at you.